Spartans, Scarlet Knights. Does a win Saturday make or break the season for Michigan State? Is it just as easy as that? Well, let's find out with our guy, Chase Glasser. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners. Actually, let's start the show this way. Thank you all on this week of Thanksgiving, including you, Chase. Thanks for your time, first and foremost. But the listeners, the viewers, cannot thank all of you enough for watching Locked On Spartans. I know we say that every show, but I don't want that to be white noise this time. Genuinely, thank you for all of your support during, of all seasons, this season especially. The fact that you guys keep crawling back here, you guys are the best, truly. Please rate, review, subscribe. Look, we're going to talk about if anything scared us for that game last Friday against Purdue. Chase Glasser does wonderful film room pieces. So we're going to see if there's anything to really be concerned about that we didn't already know about this team. We're going to talk about battles within this Rutgers game we're looking forward to. But Chase, let's just kick things off right here. Is it make or break time for Michigan State? I think it is as black and white as it. That, hey, you know what? If you make a bowl game, season's a success, all right? Year one of a rebuild. Yes, it was an ugly path to 6 wins, but, hey, 6 wins is 6 wins. Or, hey, if you stumble, go 5-7. I know it's a steep drop-off from success to failure, but, look, in this day and age of college football, I know it's a rebuild. I know all the excuses are out there, the injuries, whatever.
Yeah,
6 wins should be the minimum. I cannot do this for a third straight year of not going to a bowl game. Am I irrational? Am I already lashing out? Or is it truly that black and white, Chase? Does a win make the season and a loss completely breaks the season?
I mean, I think it's certainly a fair viewpoint to have. I think, I've always found the kind of, well, is this acceptable? Is it unacceptable? Kind of the declaratory, well, this will not stand, or this is a success, it's a failure. Well, I think it matters what Alan Haller thinks, and I think it matters what recruits think, and what you and I think.
You're saying we're not important, or is that what you're
saying? I will say there's no fun in that. It's much more fun to
right.
Kind of arbitrary heuristics and then argue about whether or not your team has met them. So, I mean, from my perspective, I'd really like to see Michigan State make a bowl. I think part of it is it's a tangible, hey, we did this. And that's where I think, they didn't really have a marquee win. They didn't knock off like a Ohio State or an Oregon. They don't play Penn State.
Thank God.
I think that's where maybe the loss to Michigan, where it's like, if you,
of course,
or you don't make a bowl game, but you have that, maybe that softens the palate. So I think, if you went back preseason, there was a lot of, I think the Vegas line was 4 wins. I think you and I were 7. I thought maybe 8. But clearly that's not the case. But I do think you'd really want to see Michigan State make a bowl. I mean, would I declare it a failure if they don't? What does that mean? I think you certainly can, and I'm not going to have a problem with you if you do. How about that?
We will. On this show, we will. So I'm just going to spoil that for everyone right here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the schedule and you think, yeah, you should probably make a bowl game. I do think, and we talked about this, I think, for the last, it seems like 4 or 5 weeks now. The problems are probably not going to get better within the season. I think,
Negative.
You have seen, Chiles is taking care of the ball a little bit better. He hasn't been having those huge interception games. So I think that is legitimate, tangible growth that you can point to. But everything else, it's kind of like, well, the offensive line is not very good. That's not changing. The defensive line's not really going to get consistent pressure, though they got after Hudson Card in this game a little bit. That's probably not changing. It's like
a lot of blitzes, though.
Yeah, a lot of
blitzes.
Yes.
He listened to our conversations finally. Joe Rossi, he listened to our shows crying. Would this man blitz people more? And he did. So thank you, Joe.
But I mean, the defensive line is probably not, they're not getting pressure with 4. These have all been things that we've known since about week 6. And now we're in the last week in November. It's just, it is what it is. We got to check back at the spring game and check back in August and see what we have. Transfer portal opens up next week. For the certain teams, I don't really pretend to know or frankly really care how it all works because it's exhausting. But I mean, I would imagine that obviously high school recruiting is something that they're doing. But I got to believe that they're going to be active in the portal again, the way they were last year. And
have to be.
Yeah. So I think you see what kind of team you have there. But I do really think you want to make a bowl. I think that's fair to expect. And I hope springs eternal, right? But I certainly think that they can. Though I don't necessarily have more faith than I did going into last Friday's game, which was it was a football game. There were teams and uniforms and helmets and a scoreboard and everything.
I guess. Sure. Do you remember after the Iowa game? How horrible we all felt.
Oh, yeah.
Does that feel like 12 years ago to you? Or is that just me because, oh, my God, I thought we turned a corner and we were never looking back? It was going to.
Oh, yeah.
Chase, we were getting emails wondering if a 9-3 Michigan State team could make the college football playoff. Like, people were feeling themselves over here. Awesome. And I got a feeling, I was like, that's a stupid question, but I might entertain that, actually. There's no entertaining it anymore.
Yeah, not so much.
It got so bad so quick. It's crazy to me.
Because I really thought, you watched that Iowa game, and it's like,
it looked great.
Just assignment sound offensive line play and the running game. And it's just that I still don't really know what happened. Maybe in the offseason.
I'm clueless. I know.
Dive that if I'm like really bored in like May, kind of before, and I feel like it gets really bad like before baseball's really interesting and kind of August, September, before fall camp starts, like that kind of June and July. Cause like I still don't have a really satisfactory explanation for that because they looked awesome. And
I got nothing.
I don't know. It's like Iowa's continued to be largely competent. They're not good, but there's like 2 good teams in this whole league, right? So,
correct, yeah.
I don't know. You look at all of college football. There's like, there are certainly good teams, but it seems like there's a lot of teams that are just kind of okay.
I know.
So, I really thought that they had turned a corner. Obviously, that's not the case, but I do think, you look at Aidan Chiles. Obviously, that's the guy that you're building this around. You look at Nick Marsh. just kind of seeing him visually. There was a out route he ran against Illinois and made a catch, and just the way he looked and the way he moves, it's like, man, he looks like a player, and I don't think he did anything too special in the game against Purdue, which was, something we can talk about. But you've got 2 guys there on offense that you can really build around, and I do think that you've seen growth there, particularly from Chiles as far as taking care of the ball. And there's still things that he does, the young quarterback does, but he's not going out there and throwing 3 picks and fumbling twice a game. Like you aren't seeing that, and I think that is legitimate grounds for right. We are something is developing here.
Squad, if you're looking to go to the game this Saturday at Spartan Stadium, go to Game Time, the greatest ticketing app in the land. Now, you've heard us talk about Game Time all season long, and even after this season ends, whether it's Saturday or whatever bowl game Michigan State goes to, still take advantage of the great offers at Game Time because it goes far beyond just Michigan State sports, of course. Use it for the Lions, the Tigers, the Pistons, or if you're out of the state, well, use it for anywhere where a ticket is needed. That includes concerts, comedy shows, theatrical performances. Guys, Game Time has you covered year round. Now they also got you covered when it comes to saving that money. Go ahead, go check out their flash deals throughout the week for whatever event that you are looking to go to. Or let's say you just wake up one day or you just get out of work and you realize that, well, oh my God, I actually have time to go to this event that I want to go to, but probably too late to save money. Not the case with Game Time. Their last minute ticket deals are second to none. You can save time up until kickoff, tip off, the start of the show, what have you. You're going to save money. And also, we'll just do it right off the bat here. Because when you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, you're going to save $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. And it's also time to rock Home Field Apparel. That's right. Head over to homefieldapparel.com because we're going to do the promo code right off the top because it is their fantastic Black Friday deal going on right now. As you're listening to this up until next Tuesday, guys, when you smash in promo code BFCM24, again, BFCM24, you're going to save 30% off site-wide. Guys, 30% off of Home Field Apparel. That's robbery because this is the greatest clothing that you will own. Whether it's, well, like I'm wearing, the crew neck sweatshirt right now, or the t-shirts, the hoodies, the long sleeve shirts. It's not just the most comfortable clothing that you will own. It is the most stylish. They, of course, go for the throwback vintage designs. Like right now, rocking my Sparty statue crew neck. Just got a great package today. Some retro logos from Michigan State. Got take care of the Spartan in your life. Or, if we got more than Spartans in our lives, take care of other fans in your life. They have more than 100 schools out there on their website at homefieldapparel.com. Again, guys, let's bark this out again. BFCM24 at homefieldapparel.com to save 30% off for their Black Friday deal. That is BFCM24 at homefieldapparel.com. What gives you, or I guess, what are you going to pay the most attention to in this Michigan State Rutgers game? It's just the battles within the game, if you will, because just to offer up mine, I think it comes down to, look, Athan-Kaliak-Manis, the whole Rutgers passing game against Michigan State. That might just be the obvious one, so I'm sorry if I just took it right out of your hands. But look, Michigan State, pressuring Athan-Kaliak-Manis is going to be important here. When he's blitzed, his completion percentage drops off a cliff.
That's right.
And we talked about this the other show. That's not, universal for all quarterbacks. Chiles' completion percentage actually goes up when he's blitzed. Riddle me that, but nevertheless.
Well, I think I'd put really quick. I'd put maybe a little bit of part of that on coaching. I'd have to go back and watch cuts of every time he's blitzed. But if you're doing a good job coaching your quarterback at hey, we're just drilling you. You see pressure. You have an outlet here and here. Because normally you have
your hot route.
Probably two options on every play. You have something in the flat, something maybe intermediate, where it's hey, you're looking here, and if not, you're putting it 20 yards into the 23rd row or whatever. So there may be an aspect of that. Just sorry to derail you.
Oh, no, of course. But also it's the secondary too, Chase. I know last week that they let student section members bring in 2 friends for free to the game. Well, this week you actually get to bring in 2 friends, but those 2 friends are actually going to be on the depth chart for this game to play in the secondary. So get ready. If you're coming up to Spartan Stadium, you could be playing free safety for the Michigan State Spartans this upcoming Saturday. So look, we went through a bunch of numbers a few shows ago as to why on earth Rutgers is favored. I could not figure it out for the life of me until getting into the numbers. Where Michigan State is flawed, pass protection, run game, Rutgers isn't extraordinary at counteracting that. The biggest disparity, I think, is going to be the Rutgers pass game, and it's not a great pass game. No. But neither is our pass defense, so that's why that gets the most attention from me. Can you make Athan-Kaliak-Manis look like, no disrespect, make him look like Athan-Kaliak-Manis? I can't stress enough how little I think of him as a quarterback. Which is so mean. He's a hardworking student athlete, but just against a bunch of true freshmen in the secondary and a pass rush that never gets home. Get something done. You could.
The secondary has been really beat up. So I went back and I watched the Illinois Rutgers game, which was just a marvelous Big Ten football experience. It was so good. The timeout that Shiano calls is the kid duck hooks a
brilliant
58-yard field goal.
Yes. Into wind. Yes. Into deadliest catch weather. Yes.
And then to go give up a 40-yard touch. It's so good. I mean, it is chef's kiss, man. It's
yes.
So a couple things stood out to me there. Kaliak-Manis, he made some really gutsy throws. There's a wide receiver whose last name is Strong. I think he's number 9. And he made some really good plays where it's just kind of there was a defender all over him, and Kaliak-Manis was pretty more fearless than I expected throwing the ball in there. Because I watched just kind of the way TV scheduling works, a decent amount, a weird amount of Minnesota last year. And he was terrible. Really. He
would skip stones the entire game, basically. Yeah. I watched more Minnesota football than I would admit to.
He did that. The turfing out routes, a couple overthrows, a lot of balls in the dirt, where you've got an out route into off coverage, and the ball's just kind of hopping in there, 1.5 yards short. So there's that. But I mean, he made some legitimate throws, which were kind of oh, okay. And then Kyle Monangai is a really good running back. He is definitely
ball.
Yeah, he would play for a lot of teams in the Big Ten for sure. Rutgers does this thing where we talked about split zone a couple of shows ago, where you have either a tight end or a wide receiver, normally a tight end kind of going back to the backside, blocking opposite of the play side, in zone blocking and kicking out the end man. On the line of scrimmage on the backside, not on the play side. And they do a couple things off of that where they'll leak a tight end out into the flat, or they'll have the tight end, really blow out the end man on the line of scrimmage, and then they'll double a 3-tech and have kind of a design cutback from Monangai. So when you're only playing 2 linebackers, your safeties, your linebackers, they're really going to have to play that gap well. Sometimes they bluff that,
Gotcha.
have a cutback somewhere else. Sometimes they use it as a decoy. So it's like that was something that picked up where, okay, that's kind of interesting. I think they call that belly, where you blow out one of the D tackles, and then, but I think that's where defensive lines on the end man's unblocked, but not to get too weedy. They do some interesting things in the run game, but a lot of it's built around Monangai is able to really fall forward. So I thought that the Michigan State defensive front did a pretty darn good job bottling up Devin Mockabee, who has done work against a lot of Big Ten teams, albeit
sure has.
Teams. But he's a solid player, and they did a fine job against that offensive line. So they're going to have to replicate that. And then defensively, Rutgers brings a lot of heat. So what you flagged with Chiles being good under pressure, that's going to have to be the case again. I'll say Luke Altmaier, the quarterback for Illinois, picked up a couple big first downs with his legs, and then had like a 20-yard touchdown run on just a straight zone read. Yeah. So if you catch a run blitz or just a blitz the right way, Chiles could really make some money on the ground with his legs. So that's something to watch for. And they do a thing with their defensive tackle where they'll put him at like a 45-degree angle and just blow out your center to just try to mess up an interior run fit. I think that's probably a little bit more effective against gap runs than zone runs. So I'm not overly worried about that with Michigan State, but certainly something to be aware of, because you don't want him kind of teleporting into the backfield if he does that to the backside of a play. And then they're really handsy downfield. So if you can get the ball close, I think that to a big-bodied receiver like a Nick Marsh or maybe a Montori Foster who had a really good touchdown catch against Purdue, you got to fight through that for balls, and then you can maybe get a couple pass interference calls. Montori Foster did get a pass interference call on a ball that was picked off. They brought it back for PI against Purdue, and that was pass interference, but I really wanted to see Foster fight through that. When the ball's in the air, you can't be putting your hands up calling for a flag. Because if they don't,
that's what I would do.
If they don't throw that flag, you're in some trouble. So
yeah.
But I do think they're really, really handsy in the secondary. So if you're able to protect well enough against the blitz to maybe set up some double moves, and you have people getting held coming out of breaks, that's something that I could look at as being an avenue for Michigan State to get some 15-yard pass interference penalties. So I think it'll be a very tough, very competitive game. I certainly wouldn't call Rutgers good, but I do think Greg Schiano is a good coach and
sound.
And they're competent, right? Like they're a competent, 7-5-ish Big Ten football team. So something to watch. I mean, I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think it's going to be pretty cold on Saturday, right? And it's going to be, I would imagine, a very Big Ten style game. Ugly, and hopefully Michigan State's able to get through it and get to a bowl. But man, we'll see. There's some stuff against Purdue that kind of gives me some pause.
FanDuel Sportsbook, yes, America's #1 sportsbook. They're taking care of you. Now, maybe you're already taken care of during this Thanksgiving slate of NFL games, like I was. Lord knows I was nose deep in all the same game parlays that they offered. They also had a no sweat same game parlay bet that we could use today. Took advantage of that one because they're just hooking it up all football season, whether it's college football, NFL football. The best place to be is simply FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, right now, Michigan State currently 1.5-point favorites against Rutgers. We're going to get to our 5 best bets at the end of this show, but if you're already feeling hot about that one, well, mosey on over to FanDuel Sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, that first $5 bet. Now, the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Which brings us to the next topic of conversation right now. Because I texted you, hey, this is what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Anything that concerned you about Purdue? I know that we have an incredibly large sample size at this point. We're running out of things that are like new.
Sure.
But anything new out of that Purdue game with at least one more game in the season left that's a little concerning for you? And Chase, I know your X's and O's. You do great work over at Spartans Illustrated, the film room piece. If your answer is just as simple as the second half, well, I could shut this recording off right now. We can just go both on our merry ways. But if you want to just say anything else on top of that, be my guest. You are more than welcome to. Because, wow, yikes.
Yeah, it was gnarly. I'm just kind of like, you know what? It's not been the season you want, but you go out.
We got this, though. We got this.
You take care of business, right? Like, yes. It's not necessarily pretty, but you went out business-like, and you did what you needed to do.
Yep.
Good on you. And then the second half, I kind of stopped watching. I had some stuff to do. And then somebody texted me, hey.
Of course you did. Who in the right mind would have watched the second half of this game if you aren't a diehard Spartan fan? Like, you have literally anything better to do in your life. A beatdown.
Yeah, I mean, I go through and I tape it, and then I rewatch, and then I do the film room and everything. So I was like, I'll pick up the second half later, and we can see, what happened. And then I get back out down to watching it with like 10 minutes left, and then it's just kind of whoa, kind of what happened. On rewatch, I mean, I think you look at the stat line and you see Nick Marsh with 2 catches for 25 yards. This is a game, obviously, if you're game planning for Michigan State, it's like, okay, I got to stop that guy. So certainly he's drawing a lot of attention. He's a true freshman. I don't want to mitigate that. Like, even I know Purdue's bad, but you are a true freshman playing against, grown men on the other sideline who are, their defense is designed to take you away in the passing game. And he draws their best assignments. He gets safety shaded. I don't want to take that away from him. I think Montori Foster played a pretty solid game in his absence. Not that he wasn't out of the game, but he wasn't a significant factor. When you're beating cover one, and Purdue played a lot of cover one, Rutgers doesn't. They're more of they've played a lot of cover three for a long time. But you need to have a game-breaking wide receiver, and I talked about this in the film room, but you also need to have a quarterback that gets you the ball accurately. And I think that we've come a long way as far as Chiles taking care of the ball, as far as him just making sounder throws, making better decisions. But he is inaccurate at times. Now, those inaccuracies against cover one, unlike a zone team, do not often result in interceptions. The only time that there was a pick, it was when rarely do you throw a pick to man coverage unless you really underthrow a ball and they're able to undercut it. Or there's like a tip that happened. You see kind of with Jordan Turner how that can happen. There's an overthrow, a tip, somebody else gets to it. But a lot of times when you're seeing these interceptions, and we talked about this before, it's when somebody pops up in a zone you don't expect them to be in. Mm-hmm. And then that's where it looks like to us, well, what on earth were you doing? You threw it right to him. Well, you have your snap read. You didn't expect him to be there. Mm-hmm. But cover one, they're not going to really do that. The only time there was a pick was when there was that pass interference call and the one high safety who's kind of playing man, the free part of man free, was able to get the pick. So you didn't see that as much, but you did see in the second half, I thought, a lot of third and mediums where Purdue is ready for a quarterback run. This is something that Michigan State's prepared for. And they put the ball in Chiles's hands and give him just kind of a straight drop back pass or sometimes a play action. And the throw just wasn't there. I mean, Marsh was two of them that I can think of went to Marsh, and he was covered, but the throw was not really competitive. Gotcha. And you need to make more accurate throws. And I'm not the quarterback mechanics guy. All year though, there has been some issues with clean pockets, balls being inaccurate. There's a bad interception against Maryland that comes to mind is kind of like the hallmark of that, where it's you've got a guy in a post with a step and it's like 2 feet over his head and it gets picked off by somebody playing like a deep half or something. Got to be better than that. But like I said, you are working on that in the off season. You're breaking down the film of your throwing motion. That's probably more of an off season project. And I'd certainly look for him to be more accurate next year, so we can pair that better decision making and the better processing with more accurate throws. But that was something that stood out to me. And then there were times when Michigan State's bringing 4, they're just not getting home. We talked about this. We knew this. That's not going to get better in the next, couple days here with us playing Purdue here or Rutgers here. It's not going to get better from the Purdue game to the Rutgers game, just like it hasn't gotten better since, week 4 till now. Rossi showed some creative blitzes and things like that. And I think that's good because I don't think a whole lot of Ethan Kaliakmanis is a quarterback. So I'm on board with that. But I do think the defense has to be disciplined. There was a really, really bad bust on that fly route that went through the Purdue guys through his hands, where it's like, you think you're playing, the flat, you're passing somebody off. They think they're playing robber or something like that. And then you have somebody who is just astonishingly wide open. Got to avoid stuff like that. Got to. So
that was insane.
Yeah. It's just, it's like I said, it was a very Big Ten game. And so, I mean, you are what you are at this point, and you hope that you're able to scratch one out and get to a bowl, get those 15 practices to get better, get more cohesive, and start looking around in the portal to supplement this team. So, here's hoping.
That's all we have, Chase, is hope for this game. Hope that our secondary can patch some game together, our pass rush can patch something together, our offensive line can patch something together. We're asking for a lot of patching this Saturday. But hey, you know what? Dang it. We'll be here. I'll be here after the game. I'm sure Chase has something better to do on his Saturday, but we will recap this game.
Saturday is going to go great for me personally, I'm sure, Matt.
Why, do you have a team playing earlier that day by any chance? Or
I think I'm going to go golfing is what I'm going to do.
I was going to say, I forget who you root for when you're not watching Michigan State.
Yeah. Golfing,
I would heavily suggest that, Chase. But
yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah. We're all looking forward to that. So
that's good. Speaking of that, we're going to pick the Michigan State Rutgers game here in a little bit. I'm going to give my thoughts on the Michigan Ohio State game here in a little bit on 5 best bets. And guys, we got some news. The haters, they're kicking dirt. They are punching the air because last week we secured an above 500 record, Chase. That's right. We went 37 and 28 so far in the season. We'll see if we can build that a little more. Oh, Chase, we're just raining dollar bills over here. But yeah, we'll come back with 5 best bets here in a hot second. But before that, Chase, cannot thank you enough. Again, guys, you already know this, but I'll say it again. Over at Spartans Illustrated, Chase, the whole gang over there doing fantastic work. And Chase, go enjoy the rest of your weekend. Find a good course on Saturday. I hope you find a great one. Arcadia Bluffs, I'm sure they got tee times open. Get up there, man.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, man. Thank you.
It's 5 best bets time, and we're going to start with the game that we're all looking forward to as State fans here, or maybe not looking forward to. It's inevitable. It's a thing that's going to happen. We'll see if we're going to go bowling or not. Guys, you can probably tell by the tone of my voice right now that my pick for this game, Michigan State 1.5 point favorites. It's a situation where I want to be wrong. I'm picking Rutgers. I'm picking Rutgers plus 1.5 points for a lot of reasons. A lot of them that you already know. This team is injured. They have a lot of injuries, right? Like, that could be the only excuse. No, that's not the only excuse, but that's the one that's pushing me over the edge right now. We've got far more issues than just that we've talked about all season long, specifically the last month. All right, pass protection, I don't really have faith in it. Okay. The pass rush, I don't have faith in it. And to make matters worse, again, guys, we got people that are pulling out of the student section playing in the secondary. That's not to say Rutgers is a fantastic team. Look, earlier this week, if you're still driving to East Lansing, you're bored enough, you want to hear reasons why maybe you should take Michigan State, why the Spartans are favored. That's earlier in the week. There's a lot of flaws Michigan State has. Rutgers isn't positioned to overwhelmingly dominate those flaws Michigan State has. But guys, at this point, maybe that second half of the last game is sitting too much in my head right now, or any of the 7 games before that, except the Iowa game. I don't see it. I hope I'm wrong. Oh God, guys, if we beat Rutgers, Lord knows that we will be on this show fired up about making the game above Sports Bowl or the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, whatever it is. Whether it's injuries or whether it's all the problems Michigan State has even before you start talking injuries, I think Rutgers is, even though they're not good, they're well enough put together to win this game. You have no idea how bad I want to be wrong right now, but that is where I'm leaning. Rutgers plus 1.5 to kick off 5 best bets, which, guys, by the way, I guess I should, say this right now. We went 3-2 last week. We are 37-28 overall, but let's just keep it moving here. I'll take Indiana minus 28 over Purdue. You know that Cignetti wants to drive a tank. They want to unload the bazookas towards West Lafayette. Right now, I'm going to take the Hoosiers. Minus 28, I think they win by 40 plus. Texas minus 5.5 over Texas A&M. I like the Longhorns in this game. I also like, for the Mac Brown farewell tour game, North Carolina Tar Heels minus 3.5 over NC State. And then the last game, sure, we'll talk about the game going on at noon. Michigan plus 21 over Ohio State. And I understand Ohio State, they want to beat the brakes off Michigan. They want to right all the wrongs of their last 3 years, but I don't think those offensive line injuries are nothing for Ohio State, especially with Michigan's only strength in their team coming from that defensive line. So I think Ohio State wins, obviously. I just think 21 points is way too big of a number. And I do just want to add some comments on top of that right now. Who cares? You know what? We're just going to run out the clock on this show doing this. I'm not going to shock anyone saying this. I will never, ever root for Michigan, ever. I don't care what group internationally is lining up across from them. I will be rooting for whoever is against Michigan. I want that to be crystal clear right now. But I got to say, this is probably the least mad I will ever be should the Wolverines stun the world and beat the Ohio State Buckeyes because, we've enjoyed, as State fans, we've enjoyed Ohio State's run before the last 3 years happened. I would be lying if I said I didn't celebrate, some big-time games that they've played against Michigan. Like, what was it, the 2018 or the 2019 game or the 2016 game? The games that kept Michigan out of Big Ten championships when we, Michigan State, didn't hold up our end of the bargain. Well, at least Ohio State, they clobbered them. They did their job. That hasn't been the case the last 3 years. So really, they're dead to me because in the last 3 years, when Michigan has gone on this nice little run they've had, with an asterisk by it, but nevertheless, there's only been one team between Michigan State and Ohio State that's held up their end of the bargain here in this matchup, and that's our Spartans. Back in 2021, we did our job. Where's Ohio State? Oh, they were tripping over their shoes. Oh, they were pooping in their own socks. They were melting down in every single game. They have done nothing to keep Michigan out of the college football playoff. So no, Ryan Day, Ohio State as a whole, they're dead to me. I don't care if they lose this game. You guys, you did great work for us as Michigan State fans, as Michigan haters, the whole community of Michigan haters. You guys did great work for us before 2021, but no, you guys are part of the reason why they get to march to glory. So I don't care if Ohio State wins. I don't care if they lose. I would like to see them win, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to lose sleep on it because, all this sleep I've lost was last year and kind of the year before that and a little bit the year before that. But that's thanks to Ohio State. Of course, hey, we didn't do great against Michigan the last 2 years, but at least we did it once in the last 3 years. Ryan Day and company, they can't say the same thing, so I don't care anymore. So I think Michigan covers that number. All right, class, to recap. Rutgers plus 1.5. Please be wrong. Indiana minus 28 over Purdue. Texas minus 5.5 over Texas A&M. North Carolina minus 3.5 over NC State. And then Michigan covering as 3 touchdown underdogs. Guys, we will be back after Saturday's game. Might be going to the game, might not be. We'll see. My Saturday's up in the air. But we will be back at least before midnight strikes on Saturday. Until then, guys, hey, again, happy Thanksgiving week. Truly cannot thank every one of you for just your listenership, your viewership. You guys are all truly the best. Enjoy game day. Mix in a water. Love you all. Go green.